One of the biggest issues that lots of entrepreneurs face when they're first starting out is that they don't know actually who to market to. And as a result, they waste a lot of time, they spend a lot of money on ads, and they don't actually know how to communicate what they offer because they don't understand this one thing called the problem pyramid. Now, this is something that we've developed and put together to help people understand how they should actually approach their marketing as a whole. So today I'm going to be walking you through how you can actually apply the problem pyramid so that you can be much more concise with the marketing spend, with the resources that you create to maximize the number of conversions that you actually get from either the content, ads, or even the sales conversations that you have. So let's get into it. In the problem pyramid, there's four main different stages. Firstly, you've got problem unaware, and this is people that don't even know that they have a problem. The second stage is problem aware people, so people that know that they've got a problem, but that's about it. They don't know if the solution's out there, and they don't know what they should look for in a solution. The next level is obviously solution aware, right? Someone goes from, I don't even know I have a problem, to, okay, I know that this is a problem, it's causing me some sort of pain. And then it's solution aware of like, okay, I know that there's some sort of solutions out there. The top level is what every business owner wants, and it's service aware. And service aware is when your prospects become aware that your service actually exists to solve the problem that they have. Okay? So what a lot of people don't understand about this kind of pyramid is that when it comes to understanding how to go about marketing, they don't realize that at the very bottom, you need the maximum amount of information because you have to convince someone that they've actually got a problem. Then once a problem where you've got to dig deep enough into telling them that there's actually a solution, then you've got to get them into saying that your solution is actually the best solution out there. And marketing down here, especially when you're first getting started out, can be a really big challenge. Now, just to give you a little bit more context, I've put again some examples on the side where you can see what kind of actions do you take when people are at these different levels. So if someone's a problem unaware, they didn't even know that they have a problem. A lot of did you know content or lead magnets based around giving information about what a problem actually looks like. Like for example, if your sales close rate's 40%, did you know that with the right techniques you can get that up to 80%? Do you know what I mean? It's making them aware that 40% isn't actually what they should be happy with. Making them aware that that pain in their back is something that they really need to look into. So that kind of stuff. And then even at the problem kind of aware people, when they're kind of getting into that stage, you can give them surveys or quizzes to help them understand how bad of a problem that they actually have. A lot of the time, even just in problem aware, the one above that is problem audit. Sometimes just saying, for example, I used to do calendar audits with people. So people that were aware that they had a problem, but they didn't know the extent of the problem. They didn't know that there's an actual solution. Instead of me saying to them, oh, you're struggling with time management, here's the solution, you need to do this thing, I would actually just say, hey, if you know that this is a problem, should we hop on a call and I'll audit your calendar and I'll tell you what the actual problem is and how you can go about solving it? People are very open to that kind of conversation. So doing some sort of audits a lot of the time when people are problem aware can also be really helpful. Yeah. And then above that, you can have a newsletter which gives people more information about your services, about what it is that you're kind of doing, about why this is actually a problem that they should look into, and then kind of pushing them towards service aware, which is where we want them to be. You can ask people to download a guide, or you can even get them to book in a call with you where you actually break down, so a demo, for example, of how your service actually works and why it's better than other things. So you kind of take people through this, and there's pros and cons to starting at different levels. Personally, I think people that are service aware, it's easier to convert these people because they're already looking for something. You just have to put yourself in front of the right people, which, don't get me wrong, is a task in itself, but often it's easier than taking someone from completely problem unaware to service aware, right? That's a lot of work that often you have to put in to get someone to buy something, especially if it's a high ticket service. I know this, my name's Gurupma Singh, if you didn't know. I run an academy with over 50 entrepreneurs. And in that academy, I'm constantly speaking to founders that are thinking, how can I get more sales? How can I make more money? One of the biggest mistakes that they make is that they keep serving these people that don't even know that they've got a problem. It's you've got to convince them that they've got a problem. And a portion of the people that you're trying to convince, they're not even going to make it to problem aware, right? That's why you've got this pyramid, okay? You're much more likely to convert a higher amount of people that are in this kind of area. So typically, I recommend people kind of focus on that. And I'm going to give you a few kind of examples of if you focus on top of the pyramid, what benefits you get. If you focus on the bottom of the pyramid, what benefits you get, right? Because there are pros and cons to both of them. But at the top, you get higher conversion rates because people are already more in the headspace to buy. You have shorter sales cycles because people come in with the intent to buy something. They don't need 3 or 4 calls or to watch 4 hours of videos to understand why your service is the best service. There's a clear ROI for people. Like if someone's problemware or even problemware and you're trying to sell them on your solution, it's like it's harder to communicate that ROI. And then finally, it's cash flow friendly because if you're dealing with a lead and you're getting a quick sales cycle through, it means that you can get more money and then you can use that to reinvest in the business, right? And I often prefer that because I think at the start, what you actually want is you want cash as quickly as possible so you can afford to branch out and make more content and ads and outreach that targets people that are lower down the funnel. Personally, that's what I'm saying. It is hard to do, right? It is hard to even find people that are service aware, but that's typically the easier journey, okay? Then on the bottom end of the pyramid, you've got a bigger audience pool so that there's a lot more people in this kind of area that you can target. Like most people aren't aware of the service that they need, right? But if you can dig down and get into that, there's a lot of audience there. There's a lot of people there. And that's what the bigger companies often do. They spend so much money on advertising, even like just brand awareness. And you think that you hear about like brand awareness. Why the hell would anyone care about brand awareness? And it's because by making their brand bigger, it actually allows them to dig into this bigger pool and then slowly but surely they work their way up and then you can actually close them, okay? Then you've got cheaper attention, so ads that, like, there's a caveat to this. So cheaper attention, a lot of the time, if you are focused on service aware, there's more competition, right? You're competing with a lot more people because most people don't have the funds to kind of go down here, right? So you can often get people cheaper, and if your information delivery, and what I mean by that is like your ability to take someone from problem unaware to service aware, if your information delivery is actually really good, you can often get really outsized returns here because it's cheaper often to get these types of leads, okay? Then you've got long-term brand equity. Again, if you're building trust, if you're educating people, it's actually sometimes easier because people are like, oh, well, I've been on this journey with them. They told me this information. By the time they get to there, they're often really well nurtured and they're more likely to close as well. Now, the last one is thought leadership. So again, like even just focus on people that are problem unaware. If you do a lot of work on helping people to become aware and you'll become an educator, then you could also open the door to lots of different opportunities, not just like your service sells, but you actually become more respected in your field. I think the reason why like someone like Alex Hormozi is so respected is that instead of just getting people to be aware of his high ticket like acquisitions, he actually focuses on all the way down here and he constantly builds people up, and as a result he's a leader. People invite him out for talks, he hosts his own workshops. There's much more of a following behind what he does because he's actually educating people as well. So those are the kind of benefits of targeting people at the top and targeting people at the bottom, right? Now, just a quick concept that you've probably heard of before as well that I thought was worth mentioning is that this flipped on its head is literally top of funnel to bottom of funnel, right? A lot of the time people see this kind of top of funnel and they think, okay, I need to get loads of people in here and they need to like be really broad and then they need to narrow things down a little bit and then they need to convert people. Often you can just focus on service aware people and you don't have to go through this whole process of doing like loads of top of funnel, loads of middle funnel, loads of bottom of funnel, right? Depending on where you're actually positioned. If I've got a network of all my ideal customers, I don't really need to do that much top of funnel stuff if my outreach is good enough, yeah? Like I could just go straight to bottom of funnel, okay? But people almost make it out like you have to do this process. You have to target the problem unaware people. You have to nurture them all the way up. It's like, no, you just don't. You just don't. There's a lot of people that if they need something, they'll just give it a quick Google search. They'll look at the top 3 competitors and they'll think, oh, that one probably seems the best. I'm going to go and buy that thing. Like, you probably do that for certain things as well. So you don't always need to be like targeting this group of people, and I think there's a lot of pressure on entrepreneurs that are just starting out to target this group. I want to make it clear that you can start up higher in this kind of problem pyramid, okay? Now, the kind of last thing that I wanted to run through is if you're looking at this problem pyramid and you're like, okay, great, I get it, I understand why this is important. What you can actually do practically is start applying these different things to your marketing. So we'll start off with problem unaware. If someone doesn't know who you are, you can do things like create an awareness gap. So educational content that makes them realize that there's an issue in your life that applies to that person. Okay, you want to target and touch on pain points as much as possible and emotionally trigger people, and you want to have some curiosity hooks in there as well. So it's like did you know, like I mentioned before, right? Something really simple that makes them realize like, oh, there's a better way. I remember I had an ad that was actually doing really well. One of the best hook rates I think we've ever had on an ad. And the hook was, there's a better way that high performing entrepreneurs or leaders or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was, but there's a better way. Immediately people are like, oh, there's a better way for what? And I think that if you're trying to like nurture an entire audience to like actually want to work with you, that's a good way to get them to build some trust. Okay. Next level up is problem aware. So clarity on what the problem actually is. I think this is such a big one. Like labeling people of like, hey, did you know this is your problem? You know, if you're struggling from X, Y, and Z, you are blah. Like people do this in so many different fields. Okay. If you think even about a doctor, right? The way that a doctor works is that they say you got this symptom, you've got that symptom, and that symptom. That means you have this problem, right? And that labeling immediately, like what that does to a patient is it says, okay, well, if I'm this label, then what I need to do is figure out what the solution is going to be. And it naturally pushes people up to be like, well, if I've got this problem, I should go and search for what the solution is going to be. Okay. The other thing that problem aware people want is validation. Again, even like a doctor, it's like, hey, by the way, like, don't worry. There's a lot of people that go through this kind of problem. It kind of makes them feel at ease and also builds relationship, builds trust with the doctor. Okay. And helps them to know that, you know, things are going to be all right if I go and do these things. Right. And then, like I said, diagnostic tools, so checklists, audits, questions, whatever it's going to be, like use them so that even your prospects feel like, well, it's not just that guy said, oh, your close rate's not good enough. It's like, well, you answered these questions, and these questions tell us this, and this means that you have this problem. So not just slapping someone with a label because it's like the easy thing to do, but using real tools to allow people to come to that conclusion for themselves. Because when someone themselves believes that they have an issue, they're much more likely to want to fix it. Okay? So moving up to solution aware, the next thing is one, just really simply framing options. So let's say you want to get in shape, right? You can have Ozempic, you can have, you can just change your diet, you can work out more. Like there's different options that you can have. Each one comes with pros and cons. And if you say like, well, Ozempic's the best because you don't have to do any work and you can just take it. Or you can say, you know, changing your diet's the best because it actually changes your lifestyle and you feel better about it and you don't have any negative side effects. It's like, okay, what are the actual options? People need to know the options so that they can come to an actual decision of what they need. And the way that you present the options is actually one of the best selling techniques that you can have. If you're selling Ozempic, you could, for example, say, you know, you could go on a diet and you might lose weight within like 6 to 12 months, but there's an alternative which allows you to lose weight instantly, and that's within 6 weeks, whatever, right? It's like, do you want to wait 6 months or do you want to wait 6 weeks? Okay, and your diet, you might end up quitting, but with Ozempic, you're guaranteed to lose the weight, for example. Just it, okay? The flip side is I could say, look, and now I'm going to sell the diet, and say, okay, do you want to have Ozempic where you're going to have the side effects, you're going to have those comments from people, and you're not actually going to feel like you've accomplished anything? Or do you want to actually develop the discipline, the self-control, and have no side effects by improving your diet? Okay? Now I'm selling the diet. Okay? So it's just the way that you frame the options can sell the options in themselves. And if you are obviously selling diet or Ozempic, you focus on the thing that you actually want to sell and you promote that. Okay, so and then on top of that, proof of effectiveness. People want to see case studies at that point, and then clear framework as well. One thing that I will say is that proof of effectiveness or proof is one of the biggest things that you can do at any of these levels. Okay, so even if someone's problem unaware, you can say, hey, look, this is Steve. He didn't know his health problems were going to cause him X, Y, and Z problem in the future, and that's what we helped him with. So it's like you can take someone from problem unaware to solution aware within split seconds as well. I've seen people do this in content really well. And if you've ever watched like TikTok shop ads, they're really good for taking someone from problem unaware to service aware. Okay. So this is not to say that this is some sort of long cycle and you can only do like certain things within each one. But if you want to get really good at each individual section, these are the kind of things to cover. Okay. Then the top and final thing that I want to run through is service aware. So again, like, what's the differentiation between your service and other people's service? Let's say I'm selling like diet tips and things like that. It's like, okay, great. Why should I go for your diet over this other person's diet? Like differentiation. Why is yours best? What's your unique selling points? Okay. Other thing is risk reduction. How do I make it so obvious? How do I make it a no-brainer that people are like, yeah, okay, like they've got like 4 different services that I could go for, but yours I feel the most comfortable putting my money down for. And then finally, like even urgency of like just kind of retargeting, like pushing people towards making a decision. These people often, they don't need too much information. They actually just need the kind of urgency to be like, yeah, I should go and buy that thing. I should just go and do that. There's limited space available. The price is gonna go up. I could get 9 bonuses when I sign up. Right? Okay, I'll just go and do this one then. Okay. So these are the different layers of what you can cover. Right. So this overall has been the problem pyramid, and hopefully you can understand why this is so important. If you're doing marketing in any kind of business, you need to know these things, right? You need to know who you're primarily trying to target. And if you're targeting people over here, you need to know these different things in terms of information that you can actually provide, right? So hopefully this has been helpful for you. If you've got any questions about this, drop them down in the comments below. But I know that this is one of the most useful things that I've ever learned about marketing. This is something we've developed ourselves, right? Just from like trial and error. Like I've heard these terms being thrown around, but I've never actually had someone give them to me in a structured way that's actually actionable, right? This to me is actionable. I can make content around these things. I can do ads around these things. I can include these things within outreach. Like this is real rather than just talk. Okay. So that's it from me on this. If you enjoyed, definitely like and subscribe, and I will catch you guys on one of these videos, because if you found this video useful, I'm sure you'll find one of these useful too.